yesterday belonged to Cyrus Mistry, and today it was all about Tata Sons. The conglomerate has issued a statement saying that it is beneath their dignity to engage in a public spat. This after Cyrus Mistry's 5-page letter was broken first on Cnbc-TV18 yesterday, and today we broke the Tata's response. Tata's claimed that Mistry was given a free hand and he failed to show results, and now we have another big news break. Here are the top 10 reasons why the Tata Sons board felt that Cyrus Mistry ought to be replaced as chairman. Arun Giri joins us now with that exclusive news break. Arun, you know, over the last 72 hours, we've been trying to piece this story together. And what we are now given to understand is that Cyrus Mistry seemed to have lost the trust and confidence of the board on account of performance-related issues, or so it seems if one goes by what Tata sources are telling us. Take us through the key reasons behind the decision taken by the Tata Sons board.
Absolutely, Shereen. For the last 48 hours or 72 hours, we've been hearing from Tata sources that, of course, there are reasons behind Mr. Mistry's ouster, that they have been documented. If necessary, we'll produce them in court. It was evident that if the board had to replace Mr. Mistry with Mr. Tata as Tata Sons chairman, then that note would have had to be circulated to the board. The rationale at least would have had to be laid down, and this is the rationale that we learn. There are some big reasons, that we have that were conveyed, we are told, to the board of the Tata Sons on why Mr. Mistry had to be replaced with Mr. Tata. Let's start with the structure, the governing structure of Tata Sons or the Tata Group. What was conveyed to the Tata board members is that in 2010, Mr. Cyrus Mistry, before becoming the chairman, to the selection committee, then selection committee, had set out a detailed note setting out his views on how a large and complex group like Tata should be managed, and he had also presented a comprehensive management structure with the details of the composition and objectives of each component of that structure. What the Tata sources are quite disturbed or upset is that after 5 years, it's quite unfortunate that hardly any of his major views on the management structure have been implemented. In fact, they go one step further. They're saying that even the then existing structure of the group, which had stood the test of almost 100 years, that had been set by the visionary founders and generations of Tatas, it seemed to have been consciously dismantled. They're saying that Mr. Mistry dismantled the existing century-old structure of the Tata Group, and in a way, the consequence of that was that the operating companies were drifting away from the parent company and its majority owners. And why is it presented in this way? The reason being, and as we said yesterday, that there was earlier a commonality between the trustees of the Tata Trust, between the members or the board members of Tata Sons, and the key executive of the Tata Group operating companies, namely Mr. Ratan Tata, Mr. Naushir Soonawala, and Mr. Krishna Kumar, who were there on all these three organizations. That no longer existed once Mr. Ratan Tata went out and Mr. Cyrus Mistry came in. Therefore, they are saying that Mr. Mistry tried to upset this apple cart, tried to dismantle this structure which had stood the test of time for 100 years. And they say this is an unacceptable structure, and this situation could not have been allowed to go on. Now we come to some of the financial parameters, and this is quite interesting. There are a host of figures here, that the Tata sources are presenting, and which I learn have been presented to the board as well. They say that, first of all, Tata Sons, whatever dividend is received from TCS, which is huge, that Tata Sons receives year on year, that it should not be taken into account while factoring in Mr. Mistry's performance, is because Tata Sons does not really contribute to TCS's management and has provided no funds for the growth of TCS. Therefore, they look at the dividend that they have received from the non-TCS companies, which are around 40 companies. So the dividend received from 40 non-TCS companies of the group that Tata Sons has received dividend from, that has declined from 1,000 crores in 2012-2013 to 780 crores in 2015-2016, and they say this reflects the decline of all those operating companies during the last 4 years, which is Mr. Cyrus Mistry's tenure. Then the total revenue of Tata Sons has been stagnant at about 2,200 crores, while the expenses, like expenses on staff or other expenses, they have increased quite sharply over the last couple of years. They're also saying that there was little or no profit on sale of investments during the last 4 years, And this despite a planned list of divestments that were indicated from time to time to the Tata Sons board. Another important financial parameter, the impairment provisions. Impairment provisions increased from 200 crores in 2012-2013 to 2,400 crores in 15-16. And this indicated an inability on Mr. Mistry's part to stem the falling value of several of the investments. And finally, they're saying that excluding TCS dividend and impairment provisions, Tata Sons would show an operating loss for the last 3 years. And what did it mean? It meant a complete dependence, a total dependence on one single company, TCS, and this had become a source of concern for the directors and the Tata Trust both.
Well, that is exactly what VR Mehta, who's a trustee of the Tata Trust board, did tell us as well a short while ago.